my friends, is an Iris DF. Now this is made in Burlington, Vermont. This is made by a really great group of guitar builders. I have been trying to get one of these guitars for a long time, and we just couldn't coordinate the details. So this is not a sponsored video, even in the least bit. I bought this guitar with my own money. This is used. Now this guitar was made in March, but it has showed up to me used. It is a wonderful guitar, and I'm super excited about it. And so this guitar pulls so many vibes from Gibsons from the 1930s. So the main things that you would look at and you would say like, oh, this looks like an old guitar, or it's got some old cues. It's a round shouldered dreadnought with a really drastic two-tone sunburst. This is pulling a ton of Gibson J45, Gibson Advanced Jumbo, lots of those guitars from that era. Other similarities to a Gibson style guitar from this same period. There's just the look and the feel of the finish, the mahogany back and sides, the spruce top, the transitional kind of stain on the back of the neck, and the through on a side logo. Now I will say the headstock is very different than a Gibson from that same period. So if you look at that, the tuners are incredibly cool. They're a brass. They look like a brass. They're definitely, I haven't seen vintage tuners that quite look like this, but these look very Art Deco, look very 1930s, 1940s. They work really well. One thing I've noticed is that it seems like the peg itself is longer or taller, because I noticed that they all have probably an 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch of just material above the hole in the tuner. Anyway, it's a tiny detail that only a super guitar nerd would notice. This guitar plays like a freaking dream. The nut is cut exceptionally well. The saddle is really great. This guitar sounds and plays wonderful. It's incredibly light. It's only a couple pounds. Inside the sound hole, this guitar was made in March of 2021. It is now July of 2021, which means this guitar is, what, 4 months old? It's amazing to me that I also got this guitar used at 4 months old. I don't totally know the history. I know the guy that I bought it from, but I don't know where he got it from. I had a Martin D18 VS, vintage series with a slot headstock 12 fret dreadnought. He traded me this guitar and some cash for that guitar. These are $23.50, $23.75 new, and I think they're absolutely worth that price. I got this used. I'm basically in this around $1,700-1,800 bucks, but I think that this guitar is still used. I mean, $2,000, $2,100. That's a pretty great place to be. Okay, so I want to run this guitar through a 3-question gear review. If you're new to the channel, make sure you're subscribed. I do these reviews to help you figure out what guitars are right for you. And so I ask 3 basic questions. What's good about something? What's bad about something? And if you're in the market, if you're looking for a guitar like this, should this be on your short list? Should you buy this? So the first question is, what's good about this guitar? This guitar is absolutely boutique, but they are trying to price it in a place that makes it affordable for real guitar players. At $23.50 new, less than a J45 new, less than a D28 new, American made. It's very, very cool, and I love this push, because this is, I mean, keep in mind, this is very similar to my Waterloo. You can kind of see it right back here. I have a Waterloo WLS, which is a very similar vibe. Satin finish, great materials, good construction, made in the US, trying to be more affordable. I think that guitar is $2,500 new. I got that one for $1,600, my Waterloo, but back to the Iris. What else is good about this? There are amazing fit and features. The quality of everything feels really stunning and really, really good. This is a guitar that was made to look like a guitar that never quite existed. Like this guitar, Iris Guitars, was not around then, but it pulls a lot of cues. There are a couple details. So there are 2 ways that a guitar in this price range gets made. When a factory type builder builds a guitar, they use pieces and parts that they already have sitting around that take minimal fitment to get them basically right. So saddle and nut feel very normal. Now, the whole other way that this kind of guitar could be built is by people that come from the boutique and hand-built world, and they are trying to figure out how to make a guitar in the same way that is affordable. Both of those companies are typically coming down in price to make something like this, and so there are certain compromises that are made. But when a boutique builder builds a guitar like this, a couple of things that they do is the fitment on things has to be perfect, because that is just in the DNA of a boutique type builder. So the two places that I see the fitment just absolutely stunning is in the quality of the nut and the quality of the saddle. These are hand cut, hand polished, hand fit bone, and you can just tell in those tiny little details, and this is from me being around high-end acoustic guitars for a long time, those are things that are just absolutely right. The other thing is just the quality, the sharpness, the fit of the neck heel back here. Yeah, so there are many, many really good things about this guitar. This guitar feels very old and very light, so the last good things that I'll say, has a really, really comfortable neck. Now, it is a big C-shaped neck, but if you like Guild guitars, this neck shape doesn't feel like an old Gibson to me. Old Guilds, old Harmony, old Sovereigns, old... that kind of thing, like a big full-shaped C neck. Things that I think are compromises or things that could be perceived as just bad about this guitar. The first one for me is the neck. Okay, so let's talk about the neck. So the neck has a scarf joint up here, which is fine, which is great. It's a really ethical way to build a guitar so that you're not insisting on one giant chunk of wood that is this big and you have so much waste. But the way that this joint comes together is it's just the tiniest bit cheesy. Yes, there are a couple things on this guitar that just feel a smidge cheesy, and I don't mean it in any real negative way, but it is a place where you're like, okay, that's a compromise. Like, I'm okay with it. I understand why they did it, but it is a compromise. So that's one. The other one is there's another joint. I don't know what you'd call this joint. So basically there's a block here, and then the main chunk of the neck. So you can see like basically the main piece of the neck all the way through. So you have one piece of wood that's this long, and then you add a chunk here and add a piece there. But you can feel both of them. That's the only thing that kind of gets me a little bit. And there's a tiny bit of separation, or just where the wood didn't quite match up, and there's a tiny little dip here. I mean, I have to look very, very closely to find anything really particularly wrong with this guitar. But yeah, so other than that, the finish is used without pore fill. That is an economical choice. That's a way to bring down some labor. When you're building a guitar like this, the absolute most expensive part of it is labor. If you are going to ethically pay, if you're going to pay workers a livable wage, labor is going to be the most expensive thing. Take a step back and I look at this whole guitar, it looks amazing. It sounds wonderful. It is a really cool guitar. But I do think there are people who are really not into, like, lots of people don't like my Waterloo because they say that it's a fake guitar. And when they say fake, they mean it's made to look like it's old, but it wasn't actually old. And I admit, I used to have that same kind of perspective when it came to particularly some of the Collings, the really heavily relicked, like the 290s and the i30s. Some of those guitars that didn't actually exist until, the 2000s, but they're made to look like they were in the 50s. It just felt cheesy. So I get that. Now, with this guitar, there are a few things. The satin finish, once you get up close, the satin finish kind of gets me. Like, I wish that it was a gloss finish, but I understand it would be $500 or $1,000 more if it had a gloss finish. And then the last thing, I like these tuners, I do, but same thing with the Waterloo. I think they're like the Stu Mac. I don't know where these come from or who makes these, but they're kind of like the ones on my Waterloo, like, they're just the tiniest bit dorky. They don't quite look like old ones. I mean, they match the vibe, like the tiger stripe guard, the satin finish, the burst, the kind of feel of the finish over the guitar. It all matches. But I mean, that's, if I really have to dig deep and find a thing that is like I'm on the fence about, or people wouldn't like, or what is bad about this thing, that's kind of the end of it. But all of that to say, I have a couple negative things to say, and I have wonderful things to say. So for me, I bought this as a pretty quick flip. This guitar will be for sale after this video because this came from my buying and selling money, and you buying this guitar means that the profit goes to take care of my family, keep making videos like this, and then the rest of it goes back into buying cool guitars and helping bring you guys along for buying and selling cool guitars. But should you buy this guitar, I think that this guitar is stunning. I think it plays wonderfully. If you are looking for a J45 that looks and feels like an old guitar, you are going to spend so much money on a true vintage. And the true vintage, they're great guitars. I just had one a couple months ago. But this is cooler. This is cooler. It's more unique. It's more unusual. And I understand these are hard to find right now. It's amazing to me. It's funny. After I opened this guitar live on Instagram yesterday, and the Iris Guitars Instagram account was like, how did you find one used? It was just shocking to them. I mean, and I get, it was a little weird because it's also the component of when you build guitars, you want people to own guitars forever. And so this one, someone bought it in March, or it was made in March. Someone bought it and didn't like it. And somehow I wound up with a used guitar that was made 4 months before. So I don't know why. Well, I do know why. They wanted a Martin, and I had a really cool Martin, and so I got this one. But this guitar is, I cannot say enough good things about it. It is feather light, and it sounds awesome. It's super unique. It's super cool. It is a 14 fret, still round shouldered. It just pulls so many cool vibes. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. I'm Jeremy. I'm the Guitar Hunter. It is my goal and my mission that we would fill the world with music and friendship. The way that we do that is by connecting with one another, being kind, offering friendship to the world, and working on being good and friendly people. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.